There are few movies as iconic as Terminator. I mean, from the first time you see it, it is an absolute fantastic movie. A literal cyborg sent back in time to kill a woman who's going to give birth to the child who will help humanity fight off a evil AI, artificial intelligence, and this soldier who gets sent back to help her, only to find out that he is the person to be the boy's father and all of this. It's an amazing movie. The premise, the action, the character build on it is fantastic. And then when you get to the second movie, which is something that rarely happens, it actually gets better. Because when you first met Sarah Connor in the first movie, she couldn't even balance a checkbook. She was just a waitress. She wasn't tough. She wasn't anything. She was terrified. She didn't know what to do. But by the second movie, she literally transformed herself into a badass. And you're there like, okay, yeah, this I can get behind. I'm really enjoying this. So as like I say, it's weird. I'm not trying to say weird, but it's rare to have a sequel be even better than the first movie, because they got introduced to the T-1000 and all that. It was a great movie. It was really well done. But God in heaven, I don't think I speak for myself here when I say I think it's time to stop now. People have gotten sick and tired of it. You have ruined Terminator. You're literally looking to turn Terminator into Fast and the Furious. When Fast and the Furious first started off, it was just about cool cars, fast driving, racing, all of that. And then it turned into this unbelievable CGI mess where they were just driving cars over collapsing bridges, driving cars off the side of mountains, taking cars into space, all kind of crazy shit. You were like, what in God's name is even going on here anymore? But that is what they seem to want to do with Terminator. I still to this day consider only Terminator 1 and 2 to be the only films that ever had Terminator at all. Now, there was Terminator, there was the first movie, Terminator, which came out in 1984, and there was Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which came out in 1991. After that, years later, we got Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines in 2003. Now, it wasn't a particularly awful movie, but it wasn't great either, in my opinion, because I think Terminator 2 kind of tied everything up there nicely. And if you haven't seen the director's cut of Terminator 2, the ending actually ties it off, and I think that's the way it should have ended. It was ended really nice and everything, and you could just leave it at that. I know most people had not seen it, but if you check out the director's cut of Terminator 2, that in my opinion is the way it should have ended. So when you brought in Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, to me it just felt like you were trying to do some kind of cash grab that just wasn't working. Now Terminator Salvation, on the other hand, could work as a standalone movie because it featured John Connor in this dystopian future and all the stuff that was happening there. So that could have worked as, a glimpse into what had happened. Instead of trying to rewrite the whole thing, it could have just worked as that. So again, that one could have worked as just that. But then you got to Terminator Genesis, where they basically tried to retcon everything that happened, and it made no sense. You literally had John Connor getting turned into a Terminator, so the hope of the future got turned into a killer machine that made absolutely no freaking sense. I wanted to take over the world. They did this whole thing where they changed Skynet, they changed the past, changed the future. The Terminator came back in time and was raising Sarah Connor. All of this nonsense that did not work, did not make sense. It was just a mess, an absolute and unmitigated mess. Then we got to Terminator Dark Fate, which was literally awful. Literally awful. They brought back, they literally decided to bring back Linda Hamilton to play the role of Sarah Connor, but she was older and stuff. And they literally changed everything. They had this woman who was some kind of hybrid of a cyborg kind of thing. They literally killed John Connor as a child at the beginning of the movie. So, child murder was okay there, right? That happened. And then they literally replaced John Connor with some petite Mexican girl who started off as this timid little thing, and then she became like this badass and was supposed to act like, okay, this is supposed to. It didn't work at all. Even the director of Terminator Dark Fate came out and said, after a while, that the movie made no sense. I should have never been made. But that's what you're doing. As far as I said before, I say again, Terminator 1 and 2 were the only movies that needed to exist in that time. No, they won't stop. There's even Terminator 0 now, which is the animated series, and they have now, I think, a couple episodes of that and going on. Some people have watched it and said it's really good. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes. I just didn't dig it, and I couldn't be bothered to finish with it. So that I just, I'm not saying it's terrible. It just wasn't for me at all. Even Terminator TV series that I did, it's just getting too freaking much, man. You're going to beat that dead horse into the grave and then keep pounding on its corpse? Come on. You've had enough. You had 2 good movies. Leave them as classics, but no. You don't want to do that. And apparently James Cameron thinks that, we could still squeeze some more life out of it. I don't know why, but that's what he thinks. This article here from Empire. James Cameron has more than a plan for future Terminator films with one major difference. Oh, God. Just leave it alone now, but no. Ever since the Terminator hit the big screen 40 years ago, Hollywood has taken the time-twisting cyborg saga and run with it. Because, if you say to anybody that, AI is getting out of control, it might take over the world, people are automatically going to say Skynet and Terminator. That is how literally iconic Terminator has come to live in people's minds. That is it. But no, they constantly want to ruin it because they can't make anything new. They have to keep butchering what was already there. First, James Cameron sequelized his own original with the exemplary Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Then things got more tangled with Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines and continued the story with Cameron's involvement. Terminator Salvation was something of a reboot delving into the war against the machines, which I say again could have worked as a standalone movie. That's what it could have done. Terminator Genesis attempted to remix the iconography of the series, all landed to underwhelming responses. Most recently, Terminator Dark Fate served as a direct sequel to Judgment Day and stalled at the box office. It didn't just stall, it literally died at the box office. Literally, it was a complete and utter massive failure. But while the big screen sequels have struggled to live up to the heights of the Terminator and T2, James Cameron is confident that there is a future for the franchise and knows what needs to be done to bring it roaring back to life. Or you could just leave it as is and work on something else. But let's hear what James Cameron has to say. This is the moment when you jettison everything that is specific to the last 40 years of Terminator. Oh, that sounds fantastic. But you live by those principles, he tells Empire, and that means moving away from the iconic original cast and telling new and different stories in the world of the AI apocalypse. You get too inside it, and then you lose a new audience because the new audience care much less about that stuff than you think they do. That's the danger, obviously, with Avatar as well. But I think we've proven that we have something for new audiences. without Arnie, without Linda Hamilton, without the T-800 and the T-1000 and Sarah Connor, it might be hard to imagine what's left. Well, Linda Hamilton already said that she's not coming back to do another Terminator movie, so leave the woman alone. But Cameron is clear on the elements that make Terminator tick. You've got powerless main characters, essentially fighting for their lives, who get no support from existing power structures and have to circumvent them but somehow maintain a moral compass. And then you throw AI into the mix. Those principles are sound principles for storytelling today, right? He reasons. So I have no doubt that subsequent Terminator films will not only be possible, but they'll kick ass. But this is the moment when you jettison all the specific iconography. See, here's my take on it. There is more, but let me just stop for a moment and say. You can make movies about evil AI systems taking over and humanity having to fight back and stuff like that. But the reason Terminator worked is because it had a purpose for what happened to it. The movie literally starts off with the fact that Judgment Day happened. The robots took over. Humanity is being hunted down and wiped out. Okay. In order to stop that future, and in order to stop that future, because what happened is that the humans eventually won. They smashed the grid. They took over. So Skynet sent a Terminator back in time to eliminate John Connor before he was born because it deemed him as the biggest threat. So Kyle Reese went back to save Sarah Connor. We all know that Kyle Reese was actually John's father and all of this. Okay, all of that. By the time T2 rolled around, you literally had a loop that needed to be closed, because when they ended up preventing certain things from happening, they basically stopped Judgment Day. And by stopping Judgment Day, they closed off that potential future and left a brighter future to now take its place. But since, Terminator is so good and these people are so creatively bankrupt, they keep going back to that well and saying, let's throw some more poison in here and change this because we want this story to work. So we want the story to work, so twist the story, and it does not work. Terminator had a beginning, middle, and an end. It's a closed loop. Every time you try to open it back again, you mess up. You can tell other stories. You don't need to keep telling Terminator stories. It's the same thing like what happens with Star Trek. Every time they start to push their grimy little fingers into what Gene Roddenberry created with Star Trek, and the thing about it is that the basis of Star Trek is that the future is a utopia now. That's it. And people and humanity is part of the Federation and exploring the galaxy and all of that. Because they don't know how to write anything good, they keep finding ways to make it awful. You look at Discovery, they jumped ahead into the future. The Federation is literally practically gone. There is nothing here, nothing there. Earth has become isolation and all this stuff here. And even when you thought that, there was this cool story about all the dilithium crystals exploded and the Federation, you thought, oh, well, maybe somebody planned some kind of attack against the Federation and really cripple them. No, what did it turn out to be? Some man-child that DNA get changed by living every crystal, freaked out and killed everything. You keep poisoning what works because you don't have the ability to fix anything for yourself. And this is what's going on. Every time you try to go back to Terminator, you keep damaging your brand. You can tell other stories. You don't need to keep changing what already works. Continue on. He continues to say, and it's not just that future Terminator films are possible. It seems it seems Cameron, while hard at work on Avatar, Fire and Ash and its sequels, is masterminding something new in the machine-ridden future. It's more than a plan, he reveals. That's what we're doing. That's all I'll say for now. It's like the Terminator always said, I'll be back. So yeah, that's the thing about it. So James Cameron is saying that, he is willing to do some more Terminator movies. Again, as I say, there is no point in doing this. You've already done Terminator 1 and 2. As I say again, if you have not seen the director's cut of Terminator 2, it actually ends, it closes off, the loop has been closed. That is it. There was no need for Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Terminator Salvation could have worked as a standalone movie, showing what happened in the future that John Connor had lived in. You could have looked at as that. Genesis should have never happened, and Dark Fate was a literal unmitigated disaster that even the director came out and admitted was absolutely horrible. It needs to end, people. You cannot keep messing these things up. I cannot be the only person, and if I am, tell me in the comments. I would gladly listen to what you have to say, but I'm telling you, I cannot be the only person who's sick and tired of them messing with Terminator, man. It needs to stop. You made 2 good movies, leave it at that and move on. But you're determined to turn this into a Fast and the Furious debacle. Look at that. Look at Fast and the Furious and tell me if anybody actually even recognizes that franchise anymore. Oh God, man. Come on now. You all are just absolutely embarrassing yourselves now at this point. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, only movies that need to exist. Maybe you could do one showing, John Connor in the future. Fine, a standalone movie, okay. That is it. But this, you don't need to keep going back to the well. You drunk your fill, move on. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell to be notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.